Lee. Edwards.
Well, we kind of touched on Edwards a little bit. Again, Edwards, if he stays healthy, he can be productive. He had over 4 yards of carry last year. Obviously, he was a touchdown machine. I mean, he had 13 touchdowns last year.
Yep.
So but Jim Harbaugh coming in the Chargers, he likes to run the ball. The only knock I have on Edwards is he's 29. But I'll give him this. He's had 2 years, 2021, 2022, where he didn't play a lot of games. So, he really doesn't have 29-year-old legs, so his legs are probably a little bit more rusted. But I do think that Harbaugh is going to use, him and Dobbins, and the rookie they drafted, Vidal, and it wouldn't surprise me if Spiller maybe gets a few here and there, but I don't think Edwards is gonna, I think Edwards will have around the same production, and the only reason I say that is because I don't think that Harbaugh is going to use him exclusively. I think he's going to use a running back by committee, just given Harbaugh's history and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if he has around 800, 900 yards this year, maybe a little bit more than last year. If he stays healthy, so it wouldn't surprise me. He's not really going to probably have a huge role in the passing game, so I don't see him doing much there. Do I think Gus Edwards is a starter? I think he's a stretch. I think he's a flex, possibly.
Maybe.
That could change. Maybe Harbaugh surprises us and they use Edwards more. If they use Edwards more over the other running backs, okay,
Yeah.
well then
RB2 maybe.
RB2 maybe. I don't see him as an RB1. I definitely could see people using him as a flex. Definitely a guy that should be drafted. I'm not going to argue that. And if he stays healthy, he's definitely got potential to have between 800 and 900 yards rushing.
Yeah, and you look at it, his yards per carry before he got hurt, over 5 yards each season. Even the 9 games after his injury, he was almost right there at 5 yards at 4.98. Last year, a step back, but I think his touchdown production really made up for his lack of yardage. So
yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, that was his best year by far.
It was crazy.
Double his next best season where he had 6.
He doubled, or 13 last year. He had, I think, 9? He had 13 in his 4 years that he played prior.
Yeah, there you go. So he actually had more. He had the same amount of touchdowns last year as he did.
In his career, years. Which is kind of nuts. So he'll definitely be the red zone guy if he stays healthy. And if Dobbins gets hurt, I think he's easily an RB2 if Dobbins is hurt. Not that I want anyone to be hurt, but
right.
Looking at it from a numbers standpoint, if Dobbins is hurt, I think he shoots up to a top 20 running back, personally. Devin Singletary of the Giants.
So Wiggs and I were close on this one. Listen, the reason I ranked him up here is because the Giants really don't have anybody. And they drafted a rookie. I do think the rookie, highly of their rookie. Singletary, he played, outside of his rookie year, he's actually been pretty healthy. Last 3 years he played all 17 games. He's averaged over 4 yards, over 4.4 yards a carry pretty much each season. He's active in the passing game. So I don't know. He just doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. I don't think he's going to be a huge red zone guy and effective in the red zone. I think he's between the 20-yard line, 20-yard line type of guy. and he's with the Giants. So, um, and I do think that the fact that they drafted a rookie, in Tyrone Tracy, you know, I think that they have every intention on probably, you know, using Tracy quite a bit as well. So I just don't um, I don't know that he's gonna have the same season as he did last year this year. Could he? Yes, I think he could. I think it all depends on what they see in Tracy. I think he's definitely going to be active at third downs. I think Singletary's a third down guy as well. I don't see him scoring a lot of touchdowns though, and so to me, he's a flex, possibly an RB2, depending on how he starts off the season. I don't see him as an RB1. That's just me. I think you're taking a huge risk if you're thinking Singletary's going to be an RB1. So, so I got he's in a plus. Plus, he's in a really tough conference from a defensive perspective. I mean, he's going to be going against Washington twice, Dallas twice, the Eagles twice. I mean, all those teams got extremely good defenses. And then, to start off the season, he's going to be seeing the Vikings right away.
Which could be a good game for him.
Week 3, he's going to be against, Cleveland. I'm not saying, against the Vikings, he could have a good game. But, with Brian Flores as their coordinator, you just don't know what you're going to get out of those guys. Cleveland's got an extraordinary defense. Then you got teams like, Chicago. I believe they play Green Bay this year as well. I think they play Detroit. Um, maybe not. Do they play Green Bay?
No, they don't play Green. They don't play anyone else in our division.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I was looking. They play Minnesota, and it was Cincinnati. Cincinnati's. Yeah, so I think he's just gonna have a tough season. That's just me, and I think he's gonna be split reps with Tracy.
Yeah, and his schedule, there was a point in me here like a few days ago. I'm like, he might actually have a decent year, and then I didn't look at their schedule. I'm looking at their schedule. Yeah, he could have a good game against Minnesota. He might be able to have a good game against Washington. Um, because me personally, I don't think the Washington defense is all that great. It's just a divisional game, so it's always going to be good. But then you got Cleveland, Dallas, Seattle might be a decent game, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Pitt. Like, you got a tough schedule, so I don't know what to expect there. I was maybe thinking I ranked him too low, but looking at the schedule, I think he's kind of just like in the perfect position there for me.
Yeah, I agree. We were pretty close on that one.
To move on from Singletary, Austin Ekeler, same ranking.
Yeah, we had him ranked the same. Listen, I think Brian Robinson's going to be their guy this year. That doesn't mean that Eckler's not going to get opportunity. I think Ekeler is going to get opportunity. I think he's going to be active in their passing game because he's a good pass catcher. I really do. I think he's going to. I definitely think they're going to find a way to use him in the passing game, but I think that Brian Robinson is going to be their guy in the running game. Does that mean that Eckler's not going to get carries? I think Ekeler will get carries and stuff, but I think Robinson proved last year that he definitely deserves an opportunity to be an RB1. I like Robinson. I think he's got the ability to have a breakout year this year. I think that Ekeler behind him with his experience is only going to help Robinson because I think Ekeler is going to be able to use some of his veteran presence to push Robinson to make him even better. But that doesn't mean that Ekeler doesn't have value. I think Ekeler definitely, from a PPR perspective, I can see him, especially with Jaden Daniels as their quarterback. I can see him in there a lot on passing downs, especially third downs. He's a guy that if you get him the ball in open field in those passing situations, he can get you some yards. He's averaged, the last couple of years it's tapered off, but he's averaged almost 6 yards over the last 4 years in the passing game. So he's definitely a rookie quarterback's best friend when it comes to the passing game. I think he's not going to be. I don't think Eckler's going to get 179 carries this year. I think Robinson's going to get the bulk of the carries. That's just my opinion. Maybe they split them, but I just think that I think Brian Robinson has earned the right to show that they could use him more. And the other thing is that Eckler still got to earn his spot in a brand new offense. You got Chris Rodriguez. All those running backs are in a brand new offense, but I still give the edge to Robinson. But I think Eckler potentially, based on how we see him used more in the regular season, could be a flex. I don't think Eckler's an RB2 at this point, unless he leapfrogs Robinson for some reason or Robinson gets hurt. He could potentially be an RB2, but I just don't see that happening. But he's definitely somebody that you should have on your bench.
Yeah, Eckler and Robinson for me are pretty. I don't know. I kind of think they're similar in a lot of senses, and it's hard for me to fully depict which one I like the most. I think I give the edge slightly to Brian Robinson, not by like a crazy amount, but enough to obviously rank him higher. And Eckler has kind of been inconsistent from a fantasy perspective. Like he'll have a few good like just looking at it, his rookie year not that great. He was behind Melvin Gordon. Um, but ever since then, like 25th, and he went to fourth. Fell off to 26th, and he was the top two running back the next 2 years, and then he dropped back down to 26th. So it's like it's hard to judge how he's going to do, and then he's joining a new team for the first time. He's got Brian Robinson. It's just kind of a tough spot for him to be at. And I agree with you. I think Robinson will get the bulk of the carries, and he'll be a pass catcher, but I could also see Eckler coming in within the red zone and kind of making an impact because he's had a few good seasons where he's had 10 plus touchdowns there running the ball.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it all depends on where they think they can get the most out of them in their new offense.
Tyjae Spears.
Yeah, so Spears, he's another guy I was high on last year in his rookie year. Uh, I think that he played 17 games. He had almost 450 yards. He was playing behind King Henry, averaged 4.5 yards. He was a great change of pace guy. He was really active in their passing game. He had 52 receptions. I really like Tyjae Spears. I think that, listen, I said it last year, I believe, when we were talking. I do not believe Tony Pollard can be the guy. Do I think Tony Pollard's a really good running back? Yes. But it's in a situation where he's splitting with another running back. I think Tony Pollard is more effective in the running game when he's splitting with somebody. So I really think I could see Tennessee splitting 50, splitting even, alternating possessions with Pollard and Spears. Um, you know, just because I think you're not losing anything putting Spears out there over Pollard. You actually might be gaining a little bit more. So I think Spears has an opportunity. I definitely think he's going to have a better year than he did last year because King Henry's not there.
Yeah, he's going to get more touches.
He's going to get more touches. He's still going to be active in the passing game. His passing game production or receiving production might go down a little bit because Pollard
good receiving running back.
is a good receiving running back as well. So either one of those guys are going to. I think both of their production in the receiving game could go down because I think they're equally going to be used because they're both really similar running backs. So I definitely see them splitting carries, and I can see, depending on how it shakes out and stuff. I can see them. I can see him as a flex option, and you know, but possibly an RB2. But I think it all depends on where it fall, how it shakes out, and once we see, how they're going to use both of those guys in the running game. Which I don't think we're going to get a good idea of that until we get closer to the season.
I think,
or until we get into the season.
Yeah, until we get into it. But I think Spears and Pollard are going to put up similar numbers this year. I think they're going to rush for about the same amount of attempts. The yards will fluctuate a little bit. I think they'll be around the same yards. I think passing wise, I think they're both going to be split a little bit, maybe a little edge to Pollard, just because he's shown year in and year out that he is a really good receiving running back. The only reason I have Spears ranked a little lower than Pollard is I just think Pollard's going to be the guy getting more touchdowns at the end of the day. I think that's the only plus I'll give to Pollard. Other than that, I think they're going to be pretty even in every other aspect of the game. And I think with them bringing in Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, that's just going to free up the running backs a little bit more. And Henry was doing it without being freed up much at all. So I think Spears and Pollard are both going to kind of shine from that as well.
Well, and I really think from a touchdown perspective, without, the reason Pollard's production was lower is because they had King Henry. Down in the red zone and stuff like that. And I'm not totally convinced that Pollard. I think that they could, have equal production from a touchdown perspective. But I agree with you. Pollard could have a little bit of the edge there, but I could also see Spears having the same amount, if not more, depending on how they decide.
Yeah, and I'm not even just talking straight up like rushing for the touchdown.
No, I'm talking overall.
I just think from a receiving standpoint with touchdowns, I think Pollard just might have that little bit of an edge. And I know it's hard to compare Spears to Pollard just because of him being behind Henry, but maybe I might be faded for that.
Well, I think you are, but I think it's going to be closer than you think with that. Pollard didn't have any receiving touchdowns last year, and actually he only had 6 rushing touchdowns. Last year, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he, given, the year before he had 9 rushing touchdown and 3 receiving, but I think the reason why it was different was because they thought he was going to be the guy, and I think Pollard is more effective in a 2-man system.
Yeah, because he can change the pace, and no one knows what they're expecting at any given moment. Yeah, maybe I could see him rushing the ball more. Now that I look at his stats, I don't think the receiving aspect is fully there, but I could totally see him stepping it up this year within that. And I think the receivers there, I know people aren't fully sold on Levis, but I think the receivers there are going to cause enough issues for defenses to kind of free up Spears and Pollard.
Listen, we can have a discussion about that too. I know we're going to compare quarterbacks, but I think people are being way too hard on Levis, and I think that he's going to have a better year.
I mean, look at his weapons: 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a good tight end.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. Yeah,
I think this is probably one of the most underrated offenses in the league. I'm not saying they're gonna win a ton of games, but I think from a fantasy perspective, a lot of these players are gonna be pretty good. But to move on from that, we got Jerome Ford.
So I had Ford ranked a little bit lower than Wiggs did. I had him ranked at 35, but he shook out at number 31. I think, last year Ford, he averaged almost 4 yards a carry, and he had 200 touches, but obviously that was because Chubb went down, right? He's obviously effective in the passing game. He had 5 receiving touchdowns. He had 4 rushing touchdowns. He had, almost 45 receptions. I think Ford's production is all going to depend on how things shake out with Nick Chubb. Just like we said earlier, I think Ford is going to start. He might start off the season pretty hot, because I don't think Chubb's going to be in there right away. As soon as Chubb comes back, though, I think Ford's value is actually going to be more so in the passing game than it is going to be in the running game, because and I say that 2 reasons. One, I think Chubb is going to find that his role is going to change a little bit. I don't think they're going to use Chubb as much in the passing game. I could be wrong, but I think that that's one way that they could kind of reduce the chances of Chubb getting hurt, because I do think that Ford's really effective in the
Yeah.
passing game. So I think that, given that, I think that Ford has an opportunity to really step up in the passing game. With Cleveland. He beat out Kareem Hunt, and Hunt last year, came in and he was okay, but Kareem only had 15 receptions last year. So Hunt was really the go-to guy for backs in the receiving. So from a PPR perspective, at the beginning of the year, um, I see Ford as a borderline RB2 flex guy. I can totally see why somebody might use him as an RB2 and stuff, but I see him, a borderline RB2 flex guy, definitely somebody that you need on your bench. And then once Chubb comes back, I think it all depends on when Chubb comes back, and how they start using Chubb in regards to where Ford falls in the rankings from there.
Yeah, I think Jerome Ford, like you said, depending on what Chubb does at the start of the year, Ford could have a really solid start to the year. But I even think when Chubb does come back, that Ford's going to be used quite a bit. And like going back to I think it was 2020 is the year I'm thinking, when Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb were both top running backs in the league. They're both top 10. Kareem Hunt was used a decent amount in that passing game, and he had a decent amount of receptions. But on top of that, like they ran the ball a lot. And Kareem Hunt like came in, ran the ball, and I just think we can kind of get that same production there from Jerome Ford. I think he kind of steps into that Kareem Hunt like backup type role, and then I think we see Foreman kind of vanish out after the start of the year. And even if Chubb comes in 4 to 6 games within the year, I think they could start to ease him in, and Ford could still get some decent like flex value within that time. But
Yeah, and then who knows? Maybe they reduce the amount of carries for Chubb too.
yeah, and they've done that in the past. When you look at I guess that's the year he got hurt, but Chubb only had 190 in that 2020 year, and Kareem Hunt had 181. But that probably comes down to the injury there due to Chubb. But um, in that time though, Chubb really didn't get receiving touchdowns. Like, yeah, he was utilized in the passing game a little bit, but I could totally see Jerome Ford taking on that passing role. Ford would kind of be like the Spears to Henry, to Chubb in a sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, that's the first part of our RB rankings. 31 through 60. We definitely will be jumping on again to finish up the RB rankings 1 through 30. We hope you guys tune in, check it out, find value in this. Like I've said before, please check out our YouTube channel, Fantasy Fools PPR. Subscribe, like, check out our videos. We're on, Snapchat, X, Instagram, TikTok. So check us out on all the platforms. Obviously, the videos will be broken down. Wiggs has been doing a great job at that on the different platforms and stuff. If you just want to see a reduced video and you don't have time, we totally get it and stuff. So, but check us out on all the platforms. And like I said, we'll be doing another video to wrap up the rest of our RB rankings 1 through 30. Wiggs, anything you want
Yeah,
to
keep
add?
checking out our YouTube shorts. Those have been doing pretty well these last few days with the rankings. So if you guys want a short breakdown where it's just literally a minute long, I upload the same video on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. If you guys just want to show some support on TikTok, play a video for a minute, that would be a massive help. But other than that, stay tuned for the videos. I do break these down into smaller, shorter videos for everyone to look at. So if you just want to look at 5 different spots in a 20-minute video, it makes it easy for you guys to view and all the fun stuff. But I think we're pretty good there, and we could probably sign on off.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.